He has produced senators in Nigeria. He has produced members of House of Representatives in Nigeria. He has sponsored so many projects in Nigeria. And the reason behind him being here, in addition to what he's trying to do in Nigeria, is because he feels there's a lot more to be offered to the community. Towards the end of Dr. Jack's presentation, he was alluding to automobiles. And I'm telling you that when it comes to automobiles, this gentleman has his PhD and MS, master's degree in mechanical engineering. He was an engineer with General Motors Corporation for a long time, and retired manager for engineering at Ford Motor Company. Currently the chair of Allied Strategic Care Services, chairman of Kevco Human Services, and chairman of Kevco Nigeria Limited, and the chair of Ida Homes. The reason I'm saying all this is when you look at the diversity with which this man is operating, you will see that he's touching many facets, business as well as providing service that is required. When you can combine technology with health and human services, what more can we ask for? You are providing a service, and then remember, again, I told you, we are not working for free. We are not here to work for food. We want to work and make sure we have a return on the investment. Ladies and gentlemen, our next presenter is going to be trying to coordinate and to integrate e-learning into the program that we have. And please help me welcome into our podium Dr. Kevin Boazweke. Please, let's give him a big round of applause.
I was asked to talk about e-learning, and I said, why really? I said, why not? I said, okay, I'll do my best to take the organization into what is actually e-learning. If you look at the dictionary, are you guys hearing me?
No. No.
No?
I think it's for you out.
Yeah, the mic.
I think it's for
I'm not very well, right? All right. No.
Hopefully it's coming. Okay. As Daniel will say, my name is Kevin Boazweke. I come with a lot of diverse background in education, in engineering sciences, and in business. One thing that is clear is that the world is moving in a new direction. A lot of things that we're doing has to do with computer learning. This IT conference is in that direction. So for you to develop Nigeria and most parts of the world in the IT area, you have to go with the times. So looking at e-learning as part of this conference, e-learning is described as anything that you do online towards your education. This can be web-based, it can be course content derived, it can be webinar that companies organize. Similar to this, what we're doing now. If we went past this program, this presentation, it also serve as e-learning, one category or another. So any course developed and delivered through computer, through online, and serve as part of e-learning. So a lot of people begin to think that e-learning is a new concept. But it began years ago. It began not as a university taught area. It started with industry trying to teach their people schools were broadcasting their courses. A lot of people looked this particular area into learning. Some of the universities that pioneered e-learning would be British Open University, the University Institute of Technology, and the University of British Columbia in Canada. They came together, used what is considered instructional technology to put together all the main areas that somebody should be proficient in to guarantee that some of the areas required for you to pass through have been taught. So this, I define it with regards to computer games, but they are not the origins of e-learning. In recent years, a lot of our schools have, okay, it looks like it's working. A lot of schools have pioneered that and they created community education. But if you go back in time, what is considered e-learning or online learning started way back 1728. And in 1840, the British universities started teaching shorthand. If you remember, secretarial studies, shorthand was by email, not email, by mail. They will teach you, they will send you the course content, you will learn it, and then you will take the exam and send it back. And all the way, if you go back here, in 1925, that was when a lot of universities here started the radio program. Radio program, it was like a weekend. How many people listen to courses on radio throughout the, in the 80s, 60s, and 70s? That was when we had that. They would teach you biology, they would teach you social sciences, and then by 1968, Stanford University, one of the Ivy League schools, started their own online teaching. And then in 1969, United States Navy and military organized and invented what is today called the Internet. It was started by the United States military. At that time it was not called the Internet. The Internet coinage came later. But that was the beginning of linking computers together to share information. This is a precursor to today's events, that now everybody has an internet address, has internet learning, you can Google anything, you can look up medical records that are public, not private, even though the government now is making sure that all the hospitals, all the medical outlets are united in one database, so that if you go to your doctor, they'll just enter your information and then your records will show. This was credited to the US military in 1969, and then in 1971, more and more institutions, universities, started creating one course by another. In 1976, the University of Phoenix became the pioneer in making internet studies, e-learning, very common across the country. Right now they have over 200 university centers in every city, in every state, even overseas. I know a lot of Nigerians from most big cities in Nigeria enrolled in e-learning through one university or another. It's accepted. Next one. So by 1999, all the 1982, 1992, these were landmarks of improvements in e-learning. Many universities now created full degree courses that are accredited by the government or by the accrediting institutions around the country. So they can develop courses towards a degree, but most importantly, it became accredited and accepted. So by 2002, the California universities, they call them Western Governors University, along the west coast of US, established the Western Governors University, which is completely 100% internet-based. And then they followed that up by 2002, MIT and Harvard combined to create coursework which is free, online. All the courses that they teach in their universities are now available online. All you need to do is enroll. And you can study. If you pass it, you can apply for credit. Apparently, a lot of people thought because it's internet-based, it's e-learning, therefore it's easy. It wasn't easy. The first group that took these courses, only 20% completed the coursework, so it wasn't easy. We're going to go into the advantages and disadvantages of e-learning. So you can see the timeline of progression of what e-learning has done, starting from the 1700s till now. There was a survey made of the executives of companies, and 80% of them accept e-learning college degrees as legitimate and as competitive. Most of them prefer the graduate level e-learning as opposed to bachelor's. And this is where it finds its tenant and finds its score. Next one. Okay, so having taken you through the origin, the definition of e-learning, the origin of e-learning, who's using it, you need to know what are the advantages. Obviously, the traditional face-to-face, professor to student learning is still valid, but this is an alternative. It's not a replacement. It's not everybody. So one of the advantages is classwork and schedule around work family. This is an advantage, it is also a disadvantage because you don't want during meal time somebody's face is glued to your computer and you can't have significant discussions or interactions with your family. So it's one of the advantages. It says that doing this you reduce travel time, you save money. Now that the fuel costs about $4, you can imagine how much you'll be saving. And when you extrapolate this over 1 week and over 4 years, so it needs to make sense. Students may have the option to select learning materials that meet their level of knowledge. Obviously, not everybody is capable of reading something written by somebody else, particularly people involved in instructional technology. These are the ones that design the coursework and then add their own standard of English. You can pick up a newspaper and read it. It's written at 4th grade level. And when you're reading a graduate work, it's written at 12th to 14th grade level, which is a graduate level. So not everybody can understand it if it's not dumbing down. You can select which level that you want to study. So you can study anywhere they have access to computer. It's a very big advantage. Okay? But if you don't have internet access, then it becomes a disadvantage. Self-paced modules. The developers of e-learning, mainly people with education degree, design the courses even for medical students. For engineers, some courses in engineering are available in e-learning. And a lot of them are beginning to attempt to develop the intricate solutions to some engineering concern with e-learning. So they design this, make it available, make it understandable. So it's an advantage there because you can go back and review it again and again. And then also, internet learning does not mean that you're only reading. You also have what is called virtual classroom, where, as we're talking now, is videoed. Somebody can stay in Nigeria and be looking at us talking, and can also pose questions to the professor or instructors. The instructors and students both report e-learning process interaction. As you are watching it, you can pose questions. Imagine this is a classroom. Nobody's asking you a question, but they can email me. On this day, this paragraph, this time, we discuss this particular topic. Can you please explain further because I was lost? Then, now you have a one-on-one relationship with your professor who answers the questions that you posed. So that's an advantage. And also, they encourage student teams, discussion groups. You can have chat room where people discuss whatever the topic is, whatever the subject is, whatever ideas they have. And then they encourage teaming up as students to do projects. You're not there working by yourself, you're interacting with other students in your own time. It could be midnight, it could be 8 a.m., it could be any time of the day. Another advantage is that some people that did not grow up having computers are now forced to use computer. It increases their ability to interact with the TV, with the computer, to go into the internet, to do searches, to do write-ups, to research what other people have done before them. So this is an advantage. It brings out that efficiency that you have and force you to learn. Learners can test out. There's some people who are already more advanced than the level of the course. So they can take the exam or skim over the information, knowledge, and then move on to the next item. With every advantage, you also have disadvantages. Because we talked about that e-learners with low IQ or no motivation or are procrastinators will always fall behind. If you are registered for a semester, you say, oh no, it's the whole semester, no. I will catch up when I have time. And you fall behind, and this is a very big disadvantage. People that are motivated, self-starters, will find it noteworthy, and they can excel in every environment. You have an assignment, you get it over with, and you get it behind you. People that are not motivated with no study habits will fail. Without routine structure, some people like somebody to talk to them, and they like to ask questions directly and get answers and interact with other people. So this may not be for them. So this is a disadvantage. The feeling of isolation. You feel isolated. Now, these days, attention span is one thing. You have the TV around you, you have the internet, texting, people calling you. Your attention span is not there. So, if ordinarily, compared to the traditional learning, you go into the library and you study. Just as you are studying on your kitchen table, people calling you, children are running all over, you can never get ahead. So it's a disadvantage. And then also, you may be studying when your professor is not available to answer questions. Remember, it was an advantage before. You can talk to your professor, you can send them questions, but if your professor is somebody that does not enjoy interacting, then that becomes a disadvantage for you. If you send them questions, they say, oh, okay, I'll get to it when I get it. They never got to it. So it's one of the disadvantages. And then some areas may not have Wi-Fi. If you're, let's say, in Owerri or in Borno State, and there's no Wi-Fi, you're out of luck. You're out of luck. You can type in your work, but you can't send it. Or somebody's trying to send you information, or you're in a chat room, but you're not able to connect. That becomes a disadvantage. You watch in developed countries, but if you are in a developing country where this is not really available, it becomes an issue. If you are taking some classes that require lab work, e-learning is not for you because you actually have to have hands-on. So it's listed as one of the disadvantages. But even though it's listed as a disadvantage, it's not truly a disadvantage because not all courses are geared towards e-learning. Some courses that require hands-on, you actually have to pay in the lab. The schools that offer e-learning recognize this and they design their courses around and make mandatory residency program as part of your learning. One of the comments that malign e-learning is people that enroll in them are dumb, non-competitive, but they're not keeping up with the time. This is a partial list of all the universities that offer e-learning. Oxford University, Cambridge, Harvard, MIT, UOM, Michigan State, the California University Systems, Warren University, University of Phoenix, Cincinnati, the community colleges, companies. Companies are some of the biggest users, and this is done through what is called webinar. They have special topics. They bring in specialists to talk about all these issues. And then people learn without leaving their work environment, without leaving their houses. Some of the areas that e-learning has excelled, so many people have enrolled in different universities for their doctorate degree, for their master's degree, bachelor's degree. Some programs, not all programs, have been developed because they felt that for the bachelors, they felt that that initial stage of one-on-one before the onus of studying is placed on the shoulders of the student. That's why some undergraduate degrees remain. You have programs in law that geared towards e-learning, occupational therapy, physical therapy, completion programs, physical therapy, master's and PhD, available through e-learning. You have certificate programs, teaching certificate. You have continuing education. Medical students are required to, and the nurses and others are required to earn so many units per year to recertify their board exams. So e-learning has come a long way. People use e-learning for self-improvement and then also for qualifying exams to enable them advance to one degree of work or another for promotions. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope I was able to segues into IT program, because IT is what brought about e-learning, because the computer is the commonality between e-learning and integrated computer programs that you work on and things like that. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
My name is Ade.
Your name is Ade?
My name is Professor David Boadu, President and Chair. My question is straightforward. Number one, I have a feeling that you get the historical perspective and then went straight to the discussion. I think there is a missing link. So I want you to link your historical perspective to your practice. I don't know whether you get it. There is no so many practice that you went into. Then number two, the example today, don't you feel the examples that are where e-learning is just part of that program? Because I'm aware in a particular part of the world where you have universities that are mainly all what they do is e-learning. For example, we have in Nigeria the Open University. You have in India their own Open University, and there are quite a number like that. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to provide a brief answer. Dr. Wazirike, then we can move on.
Professor, first of all, I was asked to give a 10-minute presentation. There's no way within 10 minutes that I'm going to be able to tell you what e-learning is all about, the advantages, the historical perspective, and link it to direct application. It's much more. If we did that, we would be here forever. So I just gave a brief overview, and then to talk about the disadvantages, the advantages, and where they are applicable. What this does is to create awareness to the participants and see how this will fit into their own lives or what they want to do. So I'll be glad to discuss this further offline. Definitely, Nigeria has open university that is geared towards e-learning. And then the e-learning that they do is specific to certain subjects. And e-learning covers all kinds of areas which I try to talk about. So e-learning in biology is different from e-learning in engineering. What the commonality is the instructional technology, the type of instructional technology that is employed. You have virtual classrooms, which is also e-learning. You have computer-based e-learning that you read yourself. You have e-learning that you do research. And then, so e-learning traverses all the areas that you can think about. But I've made exceptions. Exceptions are some of the lab-related areas that you cannot use that except you have hands-on experience.
Thank you very much, Johnson. Thank you very much again. And what we're trying to do is really, how much it says time flies when you're having fun. I thought we had so much time to deal with this, but unfortunately, we're running a bit short. But when we talk about the global business from every perspective, considering the proximity of the places that we're doing business, where we are going these days is just nothing but using the e-commerce approach and e-environment, enterprise environment. However, there's one aspect that has always plagued it, regardless of where you are, whether you're in Japan or you're in Nigeria or you're in America. One of that E that has plagued businesses. I don't care how much security you think you have, you can never have enough. And until we address that issue, everything that we've talked about, we know it's doable, it's feasible, but how do we minimize it? It's not about, we cannot eliminate it, but how do we minimize it? My next presenter is very crucial in educating us in this particular area, because this is what he specializes in. He's the president of Unitech Incorporated in Maryland and studied information technology at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, with a doctorate in computer science. Published about 43 times, testified before the U.S. Senate, and advised the U.S. Senate on matters related to information technology. Today, he's about to give us his own version and based on first-hand information on cybersecurity. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Dr. Charles Ihawara, all the way from Maryland.
Since we are short of time, I'm sure all of us understand IT and telecommunications. Let me be brief. I had 2 sleepless nights preparing for this because I was told that Ambassador is going to be at Lamonte, right? The folks are in charge of security for the country. So I thought that it was going to be a bigger discussion, but nevertheless, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to package my presentation and send it to them. I think that would be better. So that will be a little bit interactive. And one thing also, they told us at MIT is, first of all, when you get there, you will be asked a question on your first day of school. That question could be anything. And the question is going to be, okay, if you plot a trajectory to get to Saturn, and is it likely that you can also land in some other planets? Of course, as you would imagine, all of us are always going to be curious with answers. Yes, no, perhaps, etc. But there's only one correct answer at MIT. Who can tell me what that answer is? If you get it right, I give you $100. Yes. All right, well, the correct answer is it depends. All right? So, the reason why I gave this, the reason why I thought that leaving this off and having some 10 minutes interactive discussion is because of the situation now. So, what I'm going to talk about briefly is what Nigeria needs to do. A few priorities that I laid out in my presentation to take us to the next decade. Because Nigeria, as you know, has been classified now as the 26th largest economy in the world. With that also comes some risks and responsibilities. One thing we know very well is that IT, that is information technology, is everywhere in the country. The last presenter was talking about e-learning. E-learning is made possible by information technology. And of course, the convergence of information technology and telecommunication. But one thing we know of also is that Nigeria is very, very crazy with their what? Mobile phones, wireless. I attended a conference in India about 9 months ago. I think Nigeria was the 3rd highest country with the largest number of subscribers. And also, the manifestations we are seeing in this country, the developing countries, especially Nigeria, India, Kenya, etc., are quite different from the manifestations here. For example, whereas the cell phones, the mobile phones, and wireless accessories here are solely for texting, chatting, gossiping, etc. In countries like Nigeria, India, and Kenya, this is their business too. Very, very indispensable. So, what is shaping out in the next 10 years, perhaps, is going to take us unawares, leading to some catastrophic consequences if we don't start framing some priorities now, policies that will get us against that. Let me be very, very specific here. A few years ago, when Boko Haram started, folks thought that perhaps it's something that could be struck under the rug, but today we are living with the consequences. We are all witnesses to what happened yesterday and what's been going on. I intended to, if Mr. Lamonde was here, to shock him and make a prediction that Nigeria's economy might be destroyed in the next 5 years, because I listed 3 phases of fears that the Nigerian economy is going to go through. Whether we want to challenge it or not, that's going to be correct. First of all, we know that NEPA, or what do they call it again now? The electric generation problem in Nigeria is getting better, or is getting worse, depending on how you look at it. But we know that capacity is gradually expanded. But we also know that this NEPA, for example, is tied to IT. Nigeria is beginning to emerge from standalone power systems to an integrated power system with IT and telecommunications. Also, we know that Nigeria's military is going to be more challenging, especially with these terrorist cells out everywhere. And we know that part of the solution, or not, is going to be about data gathering and information sharing. But most importantly, everyone in the world views Nigeria as one of the countries with the best microeconomic systems. Of course, thanks to Ngozi Iweala and their predecessors that have worked very, very hard. One thing is very, very obvious on this. We are going to, and this is my first prediction, in the next 5 years, there will be scammers there who are going to launch a cyber terrorist attack on the nation's financial infrastructure. They are going to siphon not $10 billion, not $20 billion, perhaps $100 billion. That's going to happen. All right? It will. And also, what I can tell you is that they will have the capacity to launch terrorist warfare organized by what we call the botnet technologies. All right? That can cripple the Nigerian army or the military. So, to put this in perspective, there are a lot of issues thought obvious to these issues are 2 critical areas. The critical, what they call in this country and elsewhere, the critical national infrastructure and the banking system or the financial sectors. The question is, okay, we are expanding. We are now 26 in the world. Perhaps we are going to be 20 in the next 10 years if Vision 2020 is half realized, not even fully realized. Then, we also know that there are a lot of IT companies in Nigeria. Most of them are kinky establishments, right? Not anything sophisticated. We also know that there are a lot of universities in the country. But we also know that the academic programs are not producing enough manpower that ordinarily would create the competent or requisite cybersecurity workforce. So then the question is, how and what is the Nigerian government doing? How are they going to address this? IT, as we know it, is, like we had a meeting with the US Senate about 15 months ago. I was one of the 20 entrepreneurs invited nationwide here with 22 US senators. One thing was very, very obvious. Speaker after speaker, whether he or she is from IBM, from Dell Systems, from Microsoft, talked about the lack of the workforce to address today's cybersecurity and IT in general in the country. And that's why, if you look at the face of IT, or ICT as it's called in Nigeria, in this country and elsewhere, the face is now Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai, India. In the past, for you to become a CEO, a general manager, etc., in the IT world, you must have done a tour of Silicon Valley, right? That is no longer the case. Today, it is a question of have you done a tour of Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai? Now, why do I say this? Nigeria has the same almost demography in terms of the educational welfare with India. Certainly, one thing that can come out of this is if we go back in time and look at what India did by forming, nucleating, and establishing the so-called software parks. I was in India a couple of months ago, and by the way, my company is a beneficiary because we set up an office there. It's more expensive to develop software here than there. What I saw was truly amazing. Yes, you can talk of India being a rich country, but we know that certainly Nigeria is a real region. For example, if you go to New Delhi, you're going to have more bicycles, tricycles, more than you have in Kano in Lagos. That is positive in one respect. Also, if you go to Nigeria, whether it's in the south, east, or west, there are a lot more street beggars in India than in Nigeria. But one thing we know also is that in terms of technological accomplishment and prowess, India is way, way up there. So what this means of the hopes is that this is about the time for Nigeria to start on a good note. I'm not going to take any more of your time, except to add one thing here, and this is very, very important. SARS and MARS here, it is not difficult to fashion out an effective cyber security program for the country. Nucleate it, grow it, mature it to the point where Nigeria can even serve as an export market for cyber security, exporting to Kenya. That is a good emerging economy now. I'm sure that all of you heard about 10 months ago, IBM located their 11th development center, the first outside of Europe and North America in Kenya. And also, I'm sure you know that South Africa and Ghana, of course, coming up, they have a well-organized economy. So if Nigeria is able to cash in on this, I think as the late Professor Chinua Achebe said, money will, or is still going to be yet on creation there. Now, there is only one puzzle here, and that's the question we know of. Is this expensive? Is this going to take the federal government $10 billion to set up? No. IT, interestingly, is the cheapest technology you can acquire. The guys who wreak havoc on nations' infrastructures do so even at the age of 12, the age of 16, just with their laptop, and they are able to whistle billions of dollars. My company, as a cybersecurity consulting firm to the government, recently we were called by the government. I don't want to disclose this. You probably heard about the hacking incidents at the University of Maryland to address that issue. You also heard that the state of Maryland had the elections yesterday, or was it 2 days ago. My company developed the security for the entire online voting system, and it was successful. As you can see from my eyes, myself and my staff, we did sleep very well, making sure that, to make sure that the elections went well, the results are tallied and everything without blemishes. So what that means also, and the reason why I'm saying this is that the federal government, and I hope you have some of their representatives here, should know and be comforted that there are so many Nigerians in the diaspora that have the wherewithal, that are ready to volunteer our time without asking for a penny or a cocoa, right? Nigeria also should realize that it is not going to cost them $10 billion, all right? Give me a budget of $100,000 only. I will start something that will replicate and multiply to the extent that 5 years from now, we will go to IBM and Microsoft, and of course in partnership with the financial institutions, the business community, present an effective program that will guide us in the next decade. So my friends, this is very, very serious. I spent a lot of time preparing this, but as I said, obviously, we are out of time. We don't have enough time. I'm going to send this to the ministry. I think there's a guy from Mr. Lamonde's office here, right? I will send him the presentation. That's all I have to say. I take this conference seriously. This is a closing shot. They tell us that anything we do there has to be very good, or at least has the potential to be excellent. So I'm sure that when the Nigerian representative receives the slides here, he is going to say that it's good, but at least if not, they can build upon that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Igabara, all the way from Maryland. I know we tried to squeeze him in between because we had wanted to get him in again tomorrow when we continue this session. But in the interest of time, he was very gentle enough to cut his time short. As I recognize the majority of you, there is a group that would like to introduce again. We have a session tomorrow. We have more presenters, like we are deferring on Chief Wagweze. Tomorrow I will give you more information about him. We have also 3N Solutions and the E Foster Care and Niger Sun. CEO and President Joachim Wall is here as well. But before we actually call it an evening or try to wrap our session up, again, I told you that we are having a communication system that is really going from Detroit to Africa, Africa to Nigeria, Nigeria to Detroit, and Detroit to Washington, D.C., Maryland, etc. That's why we are here. Dr. Hold on, let's give Dr. Olufide Jack. Yes, sir.
Our brother from MIT. I'd just like to say that there is some information that you don't have access to, so I will not have found the documentation today. So I don't know if I is just going to share that information. But yes, we're willing to look at how we can work with you.
Well, I expect that because any nation's security is never shared. Yeah, so, yeah.
Just to let you know, sir, first of all, we very much appreciate your effort to support and strengthen our own infrastructure. The Nidict itself has its own set that has been set up. This communication emergency response to. And we have building it out. We've got most of the infrastructure in place, but we are building it out, especially the kind of areas where these capacity support is policy frameworks for delivery of the system. But also on the more security side of things, the NSA are releasing a policy for cybersecurity, and they will also be putting some infrastructural support in place. So we are looking very much. That's Nigeria's NSA, right? Yes, that's Nigeria's NSA. So we're looking very much at collaborations with fellows like yourself who have this capacity to help us extend it out, to create the right kind of linkages, because a cert on its own has no value at all. So we would like, as much as possible, as soon as possible, to interface with you and build our structure out. Just wanted to let you know that we are working in that direction.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them another round of applause. This is why we are here. This is the essence of our coming together. This is information that we would ordinarily not get if we were to go on the internet. And even if we had to make phone calls, we wouldn't even go. So when you see face to face, and you can really relate, and make some gestures and eye contact, then you can almost be assured that the person you are doing business with is very genuine. But I think we are here for a common purpose. This is a unity of purpose. I think that's what I call it. And this is just for the betterment of Africa. Because every one of you who is here this morning or this afternoon is capable of being self-sustained. But the question is, how can we transform this and make it better for the rest of our brothers and sisters and to develop Nigeria into the giant of Africa that is supposed to be? And I think that's why the more reason that we are here tonight. Before we close, and before we advance, let me just use that word, we're not closing. Before we advance to the next level, I have another gentleman, two gentlemen who are here, resident in Detroit. They are into the infotech healthcare. And of course, regardless of what we do, at the end of the day, if we are not healthy, everything we're talking about here is vanity. Correct? I mean, we have to be healthy to really advance and sustain ourselves to the next level and to be able to operate within the spectrum of what we're trying to do. But if we do not get our health together, there's nothing that we have. And having said that, I have Mr. Cyril Claxton of Electronic Services of Detroit, and he will introduce his partner. And his partner, he's going to introduce also Mr. Joe Williams. And they're here. We have begged them to indulge and give us, minimum time so that we can wrap up appropriately. So, ladies and gentlemen, from Electronic Services, Mr. Cyril Claxton. Let's give him another big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Our theme is collaboration. And I want for us, before introducing my partner, to lead on to that, to show collaboration from two aspects. One, a socio-political, and two, technological. In 1884, there was a conference in Berlin. It was called the Berlin Conference, where the colonials drew maps around the countries in Africa. Nigeria got their designated map that way, Kenya, Ghana, and other countries. In drawing those maps, they drew maps, and families were living, and the line went through the middle of the home. Half of the families were in one country, and the other half was in another country when they woke the next morning. With that in mind, that was 1884. 30 years later, around 1940, the peoples of Nigeria got together and they collaborated and started nation building. This is the 100th anniversary of that time. Following that, 40 plus years later, March 6, 1957, Ghana fired the first shot over the bows of the colonials and was independent on March 6, 1957, followed by Kenya and Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, they won their independence through constitutional means. Nigeria at that time was led by Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. It is with that in mind that we come to my background. I was born in this country. I've lived most of my life in this country. However, my background is from the Caribbean. Collaboration. I came here, and my professional background is engineering. And I came here and worked with the brother here, Joe Williams. He's a software developer right here in the city of Detroit. And we worked together to produce the product that we will be presenting to you today. Again, collaboration. What we are looking for with this product is to deliver best practices. And the way to get best practices is not only the collaboration between engineering and software development, but we need physicians and their input. We have that here locally. We're working with them as clinical advisors. We need in Nigeria to work with physicians and people of business, so that when we join those 4 pieces together, we get the best practice in the design of the software. And that is what we have to offer based on what we have developed here. We want to take that to Nigeria. And like the brother before me said, run our pilot. We have developed our pilot, our electronic medical record software for that. We have our the software for electronic health information exchange. Think of it in terms of a medical record as a static piece of information about someone's health. But it's no good if it's stagnant. In order for it to get from point A to point B, we need to have it move around in the healthcare circle so that we can, or people, patients could benefit from that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Joe Williams, and he will go through our presentation. It's specifically tied to Nigeria as Central and West Africa in general. So, Joe, without further ado.
Thank you, Cyril. And I also want to thank the National Information Technology Development Agency. I'm very, very happy to see what you guys are doing. It's certainly needed, and we really need something like that here. But be as it may, you guys have it there, and we'd like to be a part of that process. So without further ado, I'll get into this. But what I really want to let you know is this is just an overview. It's really our concept from our vantage point here in the States of what could be viable in Nigeria. We're open to what you guys have to say about it. What we want you to be aware of is that we bring a degree of expertise that we're willing to share, and in particular in the healthcare arena, because that, quite frankly, that's the new frontier, not only in Nigeria, but it's still the new frontier here. Things are constantly being developed, so they're not through with the process. But one of the things that we're very happy about as we talk about this is that the processes that we like to bring to Nigeria are really based on international standards, because that's what's being developed here, information technology, in particular, electronic medical record around international standards. So without further ado, we're going to just step through it. But what I want to also say is that we're looking for partnerships. We want partnerships because that's really what it's all about. We bring very little to the table. We need everybody that sees an opportunity to be a part of this. Okay, as you can see, this is what we've done here and what we're looking for. And I pretty much went through that, but we're looking for entrepreneurial partnerships. And because we're talking about a window of opportunity, there is a tremendous opportunity, but it is a window of opportunity. The reason I say a window is because from our vantage point, we want to go from the ground floor up and bring in indigenous people to be a real part of what we're doing. So we're looking to attract those who are really on the front line, such as doctors, such as entrepreneurs, that really want to be a part of information technology, and in particular, healthcare information technology. This is far more than just electronic medical record. Okay, here in the States, this is the process that they're looking at what they call patient-centered healthcare. Where the patient's in the center, and all the information that that patient needs regarding their health is around them. And what that represents is an electronic representation of all the things that have to tie into giving that patient 21st century medicine or healthcare. And I think we're going to bring up the map of West Africa. And this just kind of, I'm sure you guys know better about this map than we do. But what we just brought this out to say that it is a tremendous opportunity in the region for things to be developed. And in particular, what we're talking about here is what we call the Health Information Exchange, connected with West Africa through the HDI network. But basically what that boils down to is that there's going to be a hub of information where information is really exchanged throughout a hub. And we just depict the different countries it's going to be a part of, which is everyone. And in particular, we're certainly interested in Nigeria, and that's the focus that we have today. But this is an information hub. Everybody's going to be tied into it. And what we're interested in is that we really have an integral part, I mean, as the lay people have an integral part in this health information exchange. Because IT, in particular software development and linking into this network, really isn't rocket scientist stuff. It's really at a point where we can share it with one another and really be an integral part of what's going on here.
So, could we just expand a little bit on earlier we spoke of the remote telemedicine and the electric scooters and so forth. Sorry about that. Yeah. What I wanted, this is what we call our software infrastructure, and it's developed here, again, central around Nigeria, internal Nigeria, and also external to West Africa. So we could do that. We need to start at a point where we need to start. We could run a pilot on this here if we get the required underwriters, like the brother over there said he need 10 million, he need 100 grand to do that. With 100 grand, myself and Joe Williams could go to Lagos or Abuja tomorrow. And in 4 to 8 weeks, we could set this. You tell us who you want connected, which doctors or which clinics you want to connect to. We will do it. We will be there 4 to 8 weeks, and we will test and launch that pilot for you successfully to transfer healthcare data from point A to point B to point C, to the World Health Organization, to insurance payers, to just the government agencies. It's done here. We are doing it here. We could do it there. The opportunity is not only for us, but it's for also the people in Nigeria, because the spin-off of this, there are many spin-off healthcare industries that could follow this, and jobs in Nigeria. I just wanted to expand on this a little bit, but there's a whole lot more to it. Again, connectivity.
I'm kind of short here because I know you guys have other things to do, but Cyril was very succinct. But we want to take, just quickly, a pilot of not all of this, but just one entity, but something like maybe vaccinations, and be able to set up a pilot between a doctor and the World Health Organization. The doctors, I'm sure, is tired of doing things on paper, but no one is brought into their attention to how they can do it electronically. And believe me, there's already international standards to take care of this, and that's what we use. But for anybody that would like to know some more about it, we certainly can give you our PowerPoint, and certainly talk to you offline about some of the things that we see that could be done. Thank you.
What we're trying to do, because of time, we are going to give you all an opportunity for questions at some point, and we can continue outside from here. What we're trying to do is to relate this to you. We thought we had until 5 o'clock, but because of the logistics, we are being cut short of time. Now remember, this session continues all over again tomorrow. But before we leave, I would like to use this opportunity to recognize the presence of R.J. Ferguson. This 20 years in corporate learning sector, founder of 2 corporate learning companies, especially in the e-learning experience, which includes oil and gas processing, wireless communication systems, fiber optics and optical networks, software applications, retail, banking, healthcare, automotive, specializing also in and interested in helping Nigeria build their skill level force in the industrial sector, especially in oil and gas manufacturing. And he's looking forward to partnering with local developers to make Nigeria a great country that is destined to be. So we have partners or representatives of our area focus. Wherever you are, can you please stand so that we recognize you? Yes. Please let's give a great round of applause.
I'm actually not him.
And
he's away on another location filming a movie, so
exactly.
I'm standing in for him. But my name is John Perpich. I'm the VP of the people in their country become self-sufficient. A lot of companies provide solutions and they charge for their services and walk away. What we're interested in doing is working with people, building that skill set and allowing them to be self-sufficient. That's where we see the future, and that's how we think we can help countries continue to evolve. Because I believe that the skill set in Nigeria is absolutely no different than it is here in North America or any other country in the world. I think if we give the people of Nigeria an opportunity and a chance, they can be as strong a nation as any other nation. So our goal is to help Nigerians become competent, to become effective and efficient. And we are also interested in people's safety and saving lives, because if you've been in the oil and gas industry, it's very dangerous. So thank you very much for this opportunity and for allowing us to be a part of this great organization. Thank you.
thank you very much, representing the Ferguson Enterprises. Again, I have to apologize for the time. This is something that we never anticipated. I mean, we kind of knew we were going to be here a little bit longer. But I think the reason that it seems we are coming this year because it's going so well. We are all enjoying it. And to the extent, and to a greater extent, that we have created another forum for tomorrow, starting at 8 o'clock, hopefully till 3 o'clock again. So if there's anything that you wanted to hear that you didn't hear, any question you wanted to ask that you didn't get an opportunity to ask, please come back tomorrow, and we want you to make sure you extend the invitation to the rest of your friends. The more, the merrier. And for all of you, you have been great. Like I said earlier, Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning. So we are looking forward to tomorrow. Thanks, and good night.
Well,